Welcome to Podcast, the Business of Dentistry podcast, brought to you by Practice Plan. Podcast delivers the best business advice, real-life stories, and practical hints and tips to make your practice a more profitable and sustainable business. And now, here's your host.
Hi, I'm Donna from Practice Plan. I'm one of the regional support managers covering the East and West Midlands. I'm delighted today to say I've got Jane with me to talk a little bit about her practices and their journey with us through their conversions. So Jane, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi Donna, mine's Jane Mead. I am actually the Finance Director of a small group in Lincolnshire called Elegant Smiles. We're currently 5 practices within Lincolnshire.
Fabulous. So you've been with us a little while now, Jane, and we've been on quite a journey already, haven't we? Tell us a little bit about kind of when I first met you. You've got multiple practices, all with different providers, all different scenarios going on. What was that first step with us that you took?
The first step must be going back about 2.5 years when you acquired a practice up in Lincoln, and I believe it was at the time the largest the largest practice that we had that had planned patients. So obviously we went through that transfer process of transferring the ownership, and it was during that period that we got into discussions about actually transferring the other sites that had plan. And there was a mixture. I think they had 3 or 4 different plan providers. And we decided that it would be easier to put it all under one umbrella, just for easy to manage, one point of contact, and that every practice knew what each plan provider did. So it was a lot easier to have it under one umbrella.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And you're right. I mean, you know, when we sort of start working with a new practice change of ownership, it's not just looking at that site and what's going on there, but if you've got other practices, it's looking at, okay, what does the group look like? You know, how can we support you as a wider group as opposed to just the one practice that you had with us in the beginning? So obviously since that, we've done all your conversion over to us from all your other providers. But then alongside that, we've had lots of NHS conversions to deal with, Jane, haven't we, as well?
Indeed, yes.
Particularly in one of your biggest sites, where we've now done our 4th conversion back to back, haven't we? So tell us a bit about that.
So obviously we transferred all the other sites, and then this site that we have, which is in Grantham, was NHS. They didn't have a plan provider, they didn't have much private apart from some specialist work. So the dentists there were getting a bit fed up of doing the NHS, so we decided to bring yourself in to talk to the dentists, the receptionists, the nurses about what and how they would feel about transitioning to private. But also saying this is who we have decided to use, and for them to get an ease and comfort with them as well as yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're 4 conversions in. Well, you're the last one still rumbling on, aren't we? We've just done that one. And obviously there's conversions in the wider group happening as well. And I think, you know, you're right, that the key thing has been getting really close to the team and them feeling not only do they know me really well, but also knowing, you know, we're there to support them and we've helped them throughout each practice so that they know exactly, you know, they're going into conversion without that fear of how am I going to handle it? I'm on my own. What am I going to do when it gets busy? So, you know, it's been an absolute pleasure to work with you so far, Jane, and your group. What's the difference been, do you think, not only for you as a business, but also for your associates and your team, for the ones that have converted?
Twofold, really. One is that, again, you do get your stable revenue. So from a business, you actually know what you're getting in every single month, and you know effectively what has to go across to the associates. Whereas under the NHS, you didn't know because you're waiting to see how many UDAs were done. So it was always that timing factor. But also, as it's got easier, as it's been converting, we found that the patients are a lot easier to deal with. They've got a more clear, concise understanding on what they can have, what services are available, what treatments they can have. But also from a reception point of view, they're not having to deal with so many individual transactions. If you think for an 8 surgery practice and you have 4 or 5 NHS dentists in that day, and they've got checkups every 5 minutes, and 90% of these NHS patients are fee paying, reception constantly have somebody at the till waiting to go out, book another appointment. collect the money, somebody waiting to come in, pay for their treatments.
Yeah.
And it's just made it a lot streamlined, simpler, and a lot more refreshing,
Yeah.
not just for the associates, but for the nurses and for reception.
Yeah, and I think certainly talking to your associates that I've worked closely with, they're just feeling of, I feel more worth in myself. I truly believe the dentistry I'm delivering is right for the patients. I can spend more time with my patients. I can really explain clinical choice better. The general feeling from them is, I wish I'd done it years ago. Much happier place to work. Your team are much happier, and your nurses that are supporting your associates that have converted. Because again, that pace is that little bit slower. They're enjoying their role more, aren't they?
Totally, and through that and through practice plan, even the nurses now are taking on that additional qualifications, additional study, because they can work alongside the dentists and can learn more about Invisalign, composite bonding, iTero scanners, trio scanning, rather than just going, right, it's a 5-minute NHS checkup, let's just put your gloves on,
in
do
and
the
out.
checkup, in and out.
Yeah.
So the nurses as well are feeling a lot more relaxed and more valued as well.
Absolutely. Are you finding that your associates that have converted have gone on to do additional courses, Jane? They want to do new treatments and offer, new technology, new ways of working because they've got that clinical freedom.
I would say every dentist that's gone through the conversion, even the one that's still doing it, they've all gone and taken extra courses. We've got 2 currently that are doing some very high-end treatment cases and courses. They've taken on implants, Invisalign, teeth straightening, composite bonding, veneers, whereas before they didn't have that luxury of having the time not only to study but to actually put it in practice.
Absolutely. And are you finding the patients now, because they aren't having that more time with the clinicians, are actually more open to taking those treatments and are asking more about other treatments that may be suitable for them, or areas of concern they may have that they now want to chat to the dentist about?
Oh, totally. You've now got the patients saying, oh, what can you do with this one?
Yeah.
It's just an old NHS amalgam filling. Can you make it more natural?
Yeah.
Can you make it whiter? Or I don't like my teeth a little bit not crooked. And even to the extent of, can I have an airflow? Can I go to the hygienist? We've had to take on more hygienists to take up the need, whereas before the patients didn't want that. Now they appreciate their smile.
Absolutely. And you often find that when you do a conversion, that patients are far more open to seeing the hygienist and do really then value not only what the dentists do but also what the hygienist can do for them on a private basis. So often is the case with a conversion.
Even on the sundry, the consumable side, that the hygienists have re-educated these patients and they'll come out now and spend on the items that they need to use to maintain their oral health, whereas previously they didn't do so.
Absolutely. So, do you still see that benefit of having a mixed practice, Jane? Do you think there's still that, weight in having that NHS contract still within your practice, or can you see a time when, your practices will be fully private?
There will be a time when you can see that is going to happen and evolve. And even in the other ones that we've got, that have still got small NHS contracts, they will develop in time.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that we had to really get right in the beginning was around, obviously there's going to be patients that say I can't afford it, or I can't afford to do your regular 2 exam 2 hygiene plan. So a lot of the work we did in the beginning was to really build plans that were not only suitable from a clinical need point of view, building the hygiene in, but also having options where they could just budget for their examinations, for example, or you had a lot of patients that came once a year. So we really built a level of plans that allowed you to have complete freedom for patients, where they could budget for the bare minimum or they could budget for the bells and whistles as part of their plan. And I think that's worked really well for your practices.
Yes, I mean, we've gone from for 1+0 right up to a 2+4 for the high needs, the implantology patients that we have.
Yeah.
And we found that it works well. And a lot of patients will start off at 1+0.
Yeah.
Dentists will say, might go to a hygienist, and then they'll come back out and book onto a 1+1.
Yeah.
So we found the revenues increased over time naturally it's the patients who are actually understanding their journey within a dental
Absolutely.
practice now.
Yeah, and are wanting to budget for more. Now they value and can see the difference in coming privately to NHS. Great, Jane. Well, you know, as I say, it's an absolute pleasure to work with you and your group. And, you know, you've had some real success stories, which is wonderful. You know, is there anything else you want to add?
I haven't really, just to thank Practice Plan for their journey, and long may it continue and go for the next conversion.
Thank you.
Just around the corner.
Thanks, Jane. That's great.